Hey everyone, Dave here with Affordable Door and Gate. So today on a little more serious note, I want to talk to you about business. I want to talk about some insides, some tricks, some trades. I hope you walk away learning something. So first of all, I wanted to thank Roy because he kind of inspired this. He started making my brain start opening up. So Roy sent me a really nice email. I ended up, I put some notes on it and whatnot, because I was thinking about it, and it looks like he started back in August of 2001. So my hat's off to you, sir. That's a long time. A lot of you guys don't even know what that is. A lot of you guys haven't even started. Some of you guys have been in it 1, 2, 5, 10 years, maybe 15. A lot of you guys I don't think that watch the channel anyways, at least from what I hear through the email and the comments, aren't like old seasoned vets. Kind of like me and Roy. So anything I say, take it with a grain of salt. Roy, I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for the email. It was super kind, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Super kind. So when you're first starting out, right? I wanted to talk to you about this. I remember this guy planting the seed in my head one time. His name was Paul, and Paul worked at Herman Miller. Maybe you guys heard of Herman Miller. Maybe you don't hear Herman Miller. Herman Miller makes a lot of office furniture. They're really big known for their office chairs. And Paul was a super cool dude, right? For letting us even have a chance at the great Herman Miller that had many locations, many garage doors. We were way above our head, way over our head on doing stuff there. But he gave us a chance. He gave us inspiration. And he was a stand-up good dude. But I always remember Paul telling me, he says, one thing that must suck in your industry is the fact that you get to know people and then they leave. And I remember thinking, because I just started the business, and I was thinking to myself, like, what? It's kind of like when you're a kid, right? When you first start out, you're like a kid, right? You can't, I can't wait for Christmas. I can't wait till I can drive. I can't wait till I can drink. I can't wait till I can have my own house and have my own rules. And then you just stay at home all the time because it's too expensive, or it's unsafe, or it's more comfortable, or it's more relaxing, or it's quiet. So it's kind of like that whole, like I said, the first kiss, the first girlfriend, the first time you get to drive, and then it starts getting kind of like, oh. And what's sad is what Paul, I never took in consideration what Paul was saying when he says it must suck because you get to know people. And even with Paul moved up. He moved to a location that was closer to his home. And we ended up getting a new lady. She used us for a little bit, but we were going through the housing crash of 07, 08, all that kind of stuff. And the maintenance guys picked up most of the slack. They started doing everything in-house. They didn't need outside contractors at least for the overhead garage door stuff. They slowly weaned us out, right? And so we slowly had to pick up something else. It's just learning curves. So with Roy, he was saying something that he's been seeing, and I don't doubt this. He's been saying that he sees a lot of companies out there that are overcharging. And I would have to agree that he's probably right with that, because you got a lot of these franchise or a lot of just greed with some of these people. Times are changing. I don't know if they're for the best or for the worst. Comment below or email me. But I do see things changing. There's not so much loyalty anymore in a lot of things. I think the corporate America has driven that, right? The McDonald's, the Burger Kings, the fast, I get it my way or the highway type stuff. I want it now kind of service. And there's some things you can do to combat that, stickers on the doors, good customer service. But I agree with them with talking about overcharging, instead of changing all the rollers, just change the roller that's broke. But there's a weird dynamic to it all. There really is. My uncle told me, this was a few months back, that a heating and cooling company came out to a customer of his, and she's an elderly lady. And he says, he's kind of bashing them about, hey, they don't, there's nothing wrong with that furnace. And I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm on the consumer. I've been I'm an employer. I look at it from both sides. And it's really tough because unless you're there, you don't know the whole story, right? But you got to imagine, right? I sit there and try to put myself in their shoes. I think that's one thing we could all do to really help out a lot of things in the world. Put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? So I sit there and I try to think, I go, okay, well, here's the thing, right? Maybe the heating guy sees something that we don't know about, right? He can tell something's going bad, or he knows this is an elderly lady. She has the money. She's already maybe confessed that, right? And you know what? If I install something for her and it lasts another 20 or 50 years, it's going to outlast her, and she's just not going to have to worry about it. And so I think in business, it's really tough because you have to, every situation is different. You have to use your best judgment. So you got to do what you think is best, and you definitely have to sleep at night with what decisions you make. I know I don't want somebody coming and burning down my house, so I don't burn bridges like that. I don't do bad things, you know what I mean? Because I like sleeping good at night, and I sleep really good at night. So something to think about. So I wanted to put this in there too, because I think Roy's like the third one that said something to me about this. And I don't know if people are confused on what I said with that spring. I did the bumper spring video. So I'm just trying to make sure it's kind of clear, because I don't want some of the new guys to be like, well, Uncle Dave said put bumper springs on everything. I don't put bumper springs on everything. I only put bumper springs on typically only commercial doors, no residential, only commercial doors. And I do it on standard lift doors. Roy did mention something about throwing the springs. I have seen that. If they throw it up hard enough, I have seen them throw, because the springs can't keep up towards the end, and it'll make them do a weird jiggle, wiggle, you want to call it. I have seen them throw. Not all the time, but most of the time, for the most part, the bumper springs just protect the door. I've seen it protect the rollers, the top rollers on the top panel, from smashing into bolts and getting twisted. So I'm always putting bumper springs on my commercial, standard lift, full vertical, high lift, roof pitch, you name it. But residential, nah, I don't put no bumper springs in there. I just turn the bolts so they stick inwards. Never really had too much of a problem with that. So I just want to make that clear. So anyways, talking about these openers and stuff, one thing I want you guys to think about too, what's really weird is back in the day, right? I kind of came up with this era. We got the old multi-code here, and then we got the Genie, right? Multi-code's solid, right? Always reliable, always works, always clicks a relay on the receiver end of it. You can hear it, you can prove it. Easy to diagnose, dip switches, easy to give to a customer and say, hey, dip switch numbers, open the cover. They're right in there. Very simple. Some of this new stuff, I don't think I trust this stuff so much. He talks a lot about the logic boards, and I'm, I can't tell you, Roy, how thankful I am that you mentioned that, because in business, it can be really tough. You feel like you're a failure, and you're always asking yourself, what the hell did I do wrong? Is it because I'm ordering it from this vendor? Is it the manufacturer? Did I not rub the box like a genie and make good wishes? What is going on? But when I started out, we were always dealing with more bearing issues, chain issues than ever relay logic or relays, in these openers. Now it seems like it's a combination of both. I had a LiftMaster at the Road Commission quite a few years ago. I bought a nicer one, I thought, but they used those bearings that are the brass ones. They wore out. It broke. The shaft went limp through the chain, and I think it was only on there it wasn't there even a year yet. And it was really embarrassing, and it was a real bear to fix. So I had to go up there. I had to, change. It wasn't fun. I ended up putting a puck bearing on it. So you guys that are in the business or thinking about it or starting out, I'm still thinking about like the vending machine business, right? And I go, well, at least when you got a location, right? You put all that effort in there, you're there, right? Yeah, your machines could break. Yeah, the coins could get stuck. People could vandalize it. Yeah, they could tip the machines, right? But they're typically there. There's nowadays there's cameras on it. We don't typically see garage doors with cameras on them, right? You know what I mean? Like, you're always chasing a ghost. And So the vending machine, you did the work, you're there, right? Maybe you get a little kickback or something. That's another thing. I wonder if people give kickbacks in the commercial. I've heard of this. I've never done it, but I think it does get done. You could always do nice things, right? Gift cards, gifts, whatever. Buy them a buck knife or something. I don't know. But anyways, I just wanted to mention something. There is a lot of circuit boards. I think he mentioned what on here, the LiftMaster, the J51L5S. He's been doing a lot of, and honestly, I was doing a lot too. And that's why I went over to Genie, because like I said, at the time, my vendor through Wayne Dalton was telling me, he says, hey, that's why we're switching over. We're getting rid of the LiftMaster. They're having all kinds of those circuit boards. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, you're just saying that because that's what you guys are in bed with each other and you're just going to promote their product. You know what I mean? But he was right. And we started having problems and we started getting too many callbacks. And so it was like, something's got to change, man. I'm still a believer in PowerMaster. I think PowerMaster still makes some decent stuff, but they're a bear to find and they're a bear to, they're not as promoted, I guess, but I think they're a good company. I really do. Woo. All right. So here's the thing. In a nutshell, I want you to become a subscriber. I want you guys to think about stuff, right? I want you to have a full picture of the garage door industry. There's good, there's bad, but what's the future? What's the future? Well, the future is, I don't know. It's not that you can't make money, but things are definitely getting more difficult. You're getting a lot more people in the industry, like your vendors and that. They're switching staff out. There's people that are not in there as long term. You see that with a lot of businesses, right? You've probably had family members, right, that would either tell you when you were younger or maybe they did as when they were growing up, right? Go get a job. Get a good paying job with a pension, right? Those days are gone, right? You don't have those jobs that you go to one job and you're mopping floors and you worked your way up to be a floor manager. That's typically not America anymore. Those are gone. So I want you guys just to really understand, think about long term and what you're doing because, life is really short. And what you're always thinking about, you'll manifest, right? So for me, sometimes I regret a little bit of spending so much time in the business. Yes, has it been good? Yes, has it provided my family and my extended family, workers and stuff like that? Yes. And am I blessed? Very. But it's also come at a huge cost, right? Nights, weekends, missing a ton of things. And I think about your younger generation, and I don't think I would go down that avenue. I think I would use it as a tool, but I'd make sure I have an exit. It's just like when you get on the highway, right? You got a planned route, you got a plan exit. Make sure you got a game plan for an exit. And use it. It's not that you can't enjoy it, but I think about a lot of it, and I think about sometimes I go, there was a lot of stress. I did a lot of things wrong, and I want you to learn from me and others what we could do better, how to be more successful, how to do things more efficiently, how to be faster, quicker, and know the rights and the wrongs and when to say no or when to say yes. So just think about that kind of stuff. Okay, some of the warranty. Roy mentions on here, which I'm gonna mention. Roy's a better man than me, and I used to do this, but I don't do it anymore since I have employees. So here's the thing. He says that he does a lot of these logic boards, a lot of warranty stuff. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. That he doesn't charge. He doesn't charge the company, doesn't charge the customer, it sounds like. And that's great. I do kind of draw the line in the business we basically warranty a lot of stuff for a year. It's kind of discretionary, right? I always leave it up to the guys. It's always kind of like if you feel that this was maybe your mess up, maybe you didn't put a spreader bar on a jack shaft opener or you didn't tighten something. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you have to feel the situation out. But what I have learned, which could maybe help you guys, is that I always charge So the material is typically free, right? That's how I kind of gimmick it. Material's free. The logic board goes bad. A bearing goes bad. I take care of it. It's the labor. I don't know why, but it took me a long time to learn this. But I've seen where, like, when I can charge customers and a lot of the commercial and stuff like that, for whatever reason, labor is like non-disputed, right? But if I put it as a package deal sometimes, right? And sometimes it works like 75% of the times, but you'll get a kickback or a blowback sometimes where somebody go, I need this broke down. This doesn't, and I found out with labor, it's like they don't dispute that. For instance, we worked for a company, Menards. It's basically like Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't know if you have one by you or not. And we had to, it was kind of crummy. It wasn't a good customer. It wasn't a good fit. We had to always clock in, right? And they watched that thing to a hawk. So what we would do is we would literally go in there. We had to do our time in, time out, and we also had to make sure we get a PO from them to put on our bill when we submitted it. Well, for one, they never wanted us to bring a scissor lift. Never. They always said, oh, we got lifts. We got forklifts. We got those little boom lift things that if you ever seen, they stand down with a harness on, which the problem is you can't get close enough to the ceiling with them. So you're working overhead, right? With springs, very heavy springs. They would order their own garage door springs. So we would do the labor, right? They're always trying to find a way to cut cost. So we've started finding out, well, we're going to bring our own scissor lift. And we couldn't put that scissor lift on the bill. We put that scissor lift on the bill and they would automatically red flag it. What's this? We're not paying for this. We're not paying for this $200 charge of a scissor lift. And it's like, well, so what we learned is we have to stay on the clock, right? So we'd be out there, we'd be eating our lunch. I knew the one guy I worked with, he smoked cigarettes, and it's like, hey, man, have another one. You know what I mean? We got to burn out some time, which is a really crummy way because for us in our business, always we're go, go, go. We got customers we got to take care of. You know what I mean? So if we're just sitting here burning the time, we're losing out on other customers too. But that was just something we had to do. And so labor sometimes is never like disputed, right? Because you sit there and you go, well, got my vehicle, I got gas, I got my time. I mean, even if you don't put it down as that, my labor, right? If I wasn't working with you, I could be doing another job that's making money. Now, granted, like I said, this is all with a grain of salt, right? Because it's very discretionary. I mean, but time is money. And unfortunately, the world we live in, people have to kind of understand that this product, unfortunately, aren't as built as good as what they were back, 15, 20 years ago. It's really the sad, and it can mess with your mind heavily, very heavily. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about some other things to consider, right? Because I want you guys to learn. I want you to open up your minds and understand things. So, for instance, right, this took me a long time, right? I dealt with a lot of fence contractors. I mean, a lot. And I could never understand, right? They're always subbing us out, right? And so if you're going to start a business or you're going to get into the game or do something, right, you have to think about all these little pieces because they start adding up, right? I just did a fence job yesterday, and I'm going to do some video. I'll do some of it eventually for you guys here. But the magnitude of stuff you need, right? I mean, even in the fence stuff, right? And yes, you can combat all this stuff. You can, in this picture right here, we got that black enclosed trailer, which housed a lot of my tools. Basically, with my enclosed trailer and my full-size pickup truck, I was indestructible. I could do anything. I could weld, I can cut, I can torch, I can build about everything for you with those two combinations. But it's a lot of stuff to haul around. Tires, brakes, bearings, greasing this, greasing that, oil change. It's a ton. So I just want you guys to understand when you get into the business. So anyways, with fencing, right? I figured this was a good picture. I found out with fencing, which was really nice, is it's labor intensive, right? It's hard work, right? And then if you live in, colder climates, when we get a lot of snow and that, you're kind of out of work, but maybe you can collect unemployment. Just an idea, if you got everything in the right combination. But with the gates, right? A lot of guys don't want to deal with the gates. Why? Because I always look at these things as human interaction. I really don't know how else to describe it. Human interaction. Anything that's got human interaction is tons of problem. Garage doors, gate operators, because they click something, right? They click something. It don't work. So what do? They call you, which can be kind of good, kind of bad. A lot of things people don't realize is most of the time when they're going to call you, you're already busy in another job. So now you got to stack this one on, either do it later that night, do it the next day, do it on the weekend. And that's where there's never a consistent flow with the business and the garage door gates. You know, it's either you're screaming or you're dying, it seems like. So with the fence, right? You know, when you sit there and you start thinking about it, I always sat there and scratched my head and kept thinking, well, what's the deal? What's the deal? Well, when you put up a fence, right? People don't walk down the fence typically every day. I'm not saying they don't, right? Where it depends it's at, right? But you know, there's galvanization, there's scratches, there's nicks, right? It's a very indestructible product, unless it's an ornamental fence or maybe a vinyl fence that's got a hole in it, right? But chain link fence, for the most part, it just needs to kind of flow. It needs to keep Fluffy the dog in, right? And they're happy, right? And you did the labor, right? And you typically don't have callbacks. Not to say you can't have disputes over property lines, because we've had that, or neighbors do, you know, whatever, right? There's always problems, but when you think about with the gate operator, right, the operation, right, every day somebody's clicking that thing. If there's snowfall on the gate operator fails. If the photo eye gets covered with snow, the gate won't close. It's got electrical. If electrical voltage isn't correct, which we've had that, brownouts, power surges, you know, now it's a fail. And yes, in a nutshell, you can think about it and go, oh, I'm going to make all this extra business and all this extra, but it typically doesn't work that way, because when you get thrown in that situation, let's say you installed it 2 months ago and now it had a failure, right? No matter what, they're looking at you and going, this isn't covered under warranty? And you're going, well, no, you even admitted that you had a power outage. I didn't say that. I never said that. Nope, I didn't say that. Or you don't even know, you're chasing a ghost, right? Typically, that's why I'm always kind of like on a vehicle. I look at it and I go, we've all experienced this, right? I'd rather have a flat tire. Just give me a flat tire. You know what I mean? Because then I can look at it and go, that's a flat tire. I know how to fix that. Put another tire on. But when you get that weird transmission herky-jerky, or the truck's not starting, it does sometimes but doesn't sometimes, you know, you're chasing ghosts. And with the gates and garage doors, you can chase a ton of ghosts. And just like Roy said, logic boards, it's like, are you serious? And do you change the front one or do you change the back one? Well, you better just change both of them, right? And that's X amount of dollars. And it adds up. So kind of like with the man doors, I did a lot of man doors. I used to do them for Home Depot, residential man doors, like what I'm standing in right here. And it got to the point where it wasn't that, you know, if you're a one-man band, it's amazing what you can do, right? You're in like super high demand, right? But if you start getting employees, it's very difficult, because you can't take that knowledge and that experience and that craftsmanship, and you can't give that to them. You can try, but sometimes they just don't get it, right? They just don't quite understand it. But with these man doors, right, I would do residential ones. And I mean, people were just so picky, right? The door latch, because they're actually physically touching it, right? Like I said, that whole fence thing, right? They're not touching every link in a fence, right? They're not walking down the thing every day checking it. But a man door, what do you walk up to? What do you do when you get in your car, let's say, right? You open the driver's door and get behind the steering wheel, right? Well, if there's a chunk of something missing off your steering wheel, you're going to notice. So the man doors, it seemed like either they weren't sealed up enough, they didn't either have enough caulk on them, they could feel a draft, the latch was too tough, the latch was too strong, the door closer's slamming, the door closer's falling off, there was just a laundry list. And it seemed like you just had to do so many things, nuts and bolts, everything, to make sure you bulletproof this thing, because every day they're walking up to it. And it can be children, it can be men, it could be employees, right? And they're abusing it. But all they know is the business owner or the homeowner, they paid you a lot of money, right? And it was always funny because, you know, back when I was doing it, you could get man doors for houses for like $230. And you tell them it's going to be $250, $300, $400 to install it. And they just, and it's like, yeah, but here's how this works. I know you're going to go through Home Depot, right? But I'm a different contractor. I'm actually going to have everything included, right? I'm going to take care of everything. If I tear it out and the threshold's rotten, I'm taking care of it. It needs door trim. It needs caulk. It needs anything. I'm taking care of it. No extra additional charge unless there's something severely unforeseen here. Like I tear something out, we got to go do tile in your whole little mudway here or something. But Home Depot and these other companies, that's when they would get you, right? They charge you a low, oh, we install it for this, right? But then when they get there, oh, you want trim? Well, that's another $40. Oh, you want the threshold? Oh, that's another $60. We need to do extra additional work. Well, and that's how they capture you because you're at their mercy, right? They're there, they got it open, they got the tools. Well, we're here, and we could just stuff your old one back in here and put some great stuff around it. But man doors were the death because it's not bad if I was doing it, but trying to get other people, it became these commercial doors the prices can range on them from, you can buy them, I've heard as low as $600 to they're like $4,000. And that's a lot of money. And you never knew, you had so many unforeseens. Even this one, you can tell there's mud in here. You got metal you got to deal with. They mud these things in. So there's just so many variables that I want you guys to think about with whatever business or whatever you're doing. And sometimes you can do too much. At one time I was doing too much. We were doing man doors, we were doing garage doors, we do gates, we do fencing. It got to be too much. You have to figure out where you need to be in the business. So with that being said, I think I'm gonna leave you guys at that. Roy, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the email because, like I said, we got a video out of it today, and I appreciate the hell out of that. And also, Roy, happy holidays to you and your family and everyone that's watching. I hope you guys all have a great day. I hope you have good holidays. I'll talk to you before the old Christmas comes. And take care. God bless. Keep all your fingers and toes.